All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to talk about negative exponents. So when you have negative exponents, the rule is to invert the location of the term with the negative exponent and make the exponent positive. And you are actually only inverting the part that has the negative exponent. So let's look at our example. 3 over x to the negative 2 power y to the third. All right, so first you have to identify which piece has the negative exponent. And in this case, it's just that x that has the negative exponent. So that x's in position is going to be inverted. So 3 stays where it is. Y to the third stays where it is. This x to the negative 2 is going to move up to the top. And once you move it, the power becomes, the power becomes positive. Let's go back. There you go. All right. So pause the video here if you need to finish writing that down. So remember, with negative exponents, to flip the location of just the variable with the negative exponent, just the piece that has the negative exponent. Too fast. All right, so simplify the following expressions. So you always want to look at it and ask yourself, well, what part has the negative exponent? So in the first problem here, just the a does. So the 4 stays, ooh, that's probably not a great color to see. Let's try again. Just the 4 stays where it is. The a is going to move, and it becomes positive. And there's our answer. So if we look here in problem 2, just the x is going to be the one with the negative exponent. So the x is going to move to the top, and the 3 stays where it is. So not too bad. So let's change it up and add in a few extra stuff. So here in 3, just the b has the negative exponent. So 6a, b moves to the top, and 2 becomes positive. And there's our solution. If we look at 4, I see that both b and a have a negative exponent, so both b and a are going to move. The 4 is going to continue to stay in the numerator of our fraction. So a is going to move to the top, and it becomes positive, and b moves to the bottom, and it becomes a positive 3. All right, so let's just remind ourselves, how do we know it's a simplified monomial? Each base appears exactly once, so that means you end up with only one a, one b, one c, one x, one y, one z, etc. when we get to our answer. There are no powers of a power, so I have nothing that's outside parentheses that I need to distribute in. All fractions are in simplest form. Okay, so we reduce those fractions. Again, don't subtract fractions, reduce them. And the last one, no negative exponents. This is a new addition from what we've looked at. So pause the video here to make sure everybody gets everything written down. All right, so let's go ahead and jump to the backside and take a look at problem 5. In problem 5, I see that my b has a negative exponent and my d has a negative exponent. So c is going to stay where it is. That D is going to move up to the top, and I'm actually going to put it behind the C just to keep things in alphabetical order. And B moves to the bottom, and it becomes a positive exponent. All right, so 6 adds in some coefficients. 6 adds in our negative 3 and our 21. Notice, negative 3 is a negative coefficient. It doesn't have a negative power, so don't move it. It's a common mistake. So if I gave you the fraction negative 3 over 21, you would want to reduce that. And that's going to reduce to negative 1 over 7. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my fraction, negative 1 over 7. Coefficients, done. Now I look, my a in the numerator has a negative power, so I'm going to bring that down, and it's going to become positive. B to the 7th is positive, so it's going to stay in the numerator. And now I'm going to go to the denominator. A squared, positive, so it stays where it is. B to the 7th is positive, so it stays where it is. And C to the 5th has a negative, so I'm going to move it up. All right, I moved it, so it becomes positive. So now I'm going to go ahead and simplify. I'm going to clean this up. Right now I have 2 B's and I have 2 A's. Can't have that for it simplified. So I have my negative 1/7. I'm going to look, I have a to the fourth and a squared, so I get a to the sixth. B to the seventh and b to the seventh is going to cancel out. And then I'm just left with my c to the fifth. So go through your things. There's no, each base appears once. I have no powers to power. My fraction is reduced and I have no negative exponents. All right, I want you to pause the video here and I want you to try problem 7. Okay, so let me walk you through problem 7 now that you've paused it. Everybody has it done. Let's see how it goes. So I'm just going to think off to the side. I have -3 over -12. That's a negative over negative becomes a positive, and 3 over 12 is going to reduce to 1/4. All right, so my fraction, 1/4. All right, my q to the -2, negative power, so I'm going to move it. It becomes positive. R is fine, and s to the fourth is fine. So now I'm going to look at my denominator. I have a q, so that stays. R to the -3 is going to move to the top and become positive, and s to the -5 is going to move to the top and become positive. All right, so, oops, sorry, I said that's going to become positive. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and simplify this. My 1/4 is going to stay 1/4. Woo, there it went. Oh, that was large. Let's clean that up. Okay, so 1/4, that's a lot better. All right, so let's tackle the numerator. I have an r to the first and an r to the third. So I get r to the fourth. Remember, they're on the same level, so I'm going to add them. I have s to the fourth and s to the fifth, so I get s to the ninth. In my denominator, I have q squared and q to the first, so I get q to the third. So ask yourself, does every base appear once? So that means every variable is only there once. Yep. Okay. Do I have no powers to distribute? Yep. Do I have my fraction reduced? Yep. Do I have no negative powers? Yep. All right. Okay, so now you should have had great success with that one. If you didn't, that's fine. Hope you found your mistake. Let's go ahead and we're going to look here to 8. I want you to pause the video. I want you to try this problem, check it with your neighbor, and then when you come back, you're going to be able to see all my work and my answer worked out. All right, so pause the video here. All right, so how'd you do? -4x, y to the 6th, z. So first, 24 over -6 is going to divide to -4. That would be in the numerator, -4 over 1. I moved all my negatives, so every variable in the denominator moved up, and only the x squared in the top moved down. I have x to the 3 on top, x to the 2 on bottom, so the top has one more. My y to the 6th, and I get a z. Hope you guys did great with that. All right, let's go to 9 and 10. So in 9 and 10 here we see that I have a negative exponent on the outside. So I'm going to actually show you 2 ways to do this one. So first, I want you to think about I would distribute to my negative through to everything. So I get c -2. Remember, you're multiplying powers. D to the -1 over d to the -5th. Okay, then I'm going to move my negative exponents, which they all have a negative exponent. So I'm going to move those. So I get a d to the +5 on top, c squared, and d on the denominator. And I have a d to the 5 on top and a d to the on the bottom. So which one has more? The top by how many? 4. So I get d to the 4th over c squared. All right, I want to show you another way to look at this same problem. I'm going to do this one in blue. So I see that it has a negative exponent on the entire outside. So what I'm going to do is actually just flip the whole fraction to begin with. So I move my d to the 5th to the top. I move my c squared down and my d down. Notice this is the same as that step there. And I'm going to end up with the same answer. If you look at 10, I have that negative exponent on the outside. So I can acknowledge that I could flip the whole fraction. So I get my x, oops, I get 3, let's try that again. So I can get x, y to the 5th on top, and 3x squared on the bottom, but I still have to keep the 2 on the outside. I just flipped the inside and that got rid of the negative, but I still have to deal with the 2. Okay, so everything inside is going to get a squared. So x squared, y to the 10th, over 3 squared, x to the 4th. Okay, pause on that. I'm going to see if we can get the same type of idea when we distribute in our negative. So I get 3 to the negative 2, x to the negative 4, get x to the negative 2, and y to the negative 10. Everything has a negative power, so I'm going to end up with x squared on top, y to the 10th on top, over 3 squared on bottom, and x to the 4th on bottom. So did I end up with the same thing as if I flipped it and then distributed my square? Yeah, we got the same thing. So either method is fine. Just acknowledge that you're either distributing and then you flip, or you flip and then you distribute. If you're once you flip, though, the negative goes away. Okay, so I have x squared on top, x to the 4th on bottom. Which one has more? The bottom. By how many? 2. So I get x squared on bottom, my y to the 10th on top, and then of course I got to simplify my 3 squared to 9. So y to the 10th, 9 over 9x squared. All right, got 2 more left and then we're done, ladies and gentlemen. So I want you to pause the video here and I want you to try out both problems. So you're probably going to be paused for a couple minutes, keep the chatter to a minimum, and give it your best shot. All right, welcome back. So you'll see I just have 11 done. We'll get to 12 in just a minute. So I like to distribute my negative through, and here's a big reason why. I see I have that negative in there, so I don't want to screw it up by trying to flip it and then maybe accidentally get rid of it. So I'm just going to distribute my negative through. I get x to the positive 3, y to the negative 1, and x to the negative 5th. And then I'm going to just move my y and I move my x to the negative 5th. They both become positive. I have x's on the top. That gives me x to the 8th. And I have my y on the bottom. All right, so I'm going to pause the video here and get out problem 12 done for you, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so I haven't finished the problem. I just want to show you what I'm working on. So I distributed my negative 2 to everything. So I have 4 to the negative 2, x to the negative 6, because remember I'm multiplying my exponents, y to the negative 2, over 6 to the negative 2, x to the negative 2, and then y to the positive 4. Remember, negative 2 times negative 2 gives me a positive 4. So I distributed and multiplied my exponents, and then I went ahead and moved all my negatives. So everything moved except for this last little y to the 4th on the bottom. That one stayed there. All right, so now I'm going to go through and I'm going to simplify. So I have 6 squared, I get 36. And I have 4 squared, I get 16. I'm going to come back in a little bit to check that if it reduces. X squared on top, x to the 6th on bottom. Which one has more? Bottom. And how many? 4. So I get x to the 4th. And then I have y's on the bottom together, so I get y to the 6th. All right, so let's go back to 36 over 16. If you type it into your calculator and hit enter, it's going to give you a fraction. But if you go to the math button, and I know that we've talked about this in class, go to the math button. Number 1 will say, it'll have like a little arrow, and it'll say frac. Hit enter, and that'll change your decimal into a fraction. And here you end up with reduced fraction of 9 over 4, x to the 4th, y to the 6th. All right, negative exponents. Next, you have a worksheet. I want you to complete the whole worksheet for tomorrow, and then we will go through questions when you're in the beginning of class. All right, thanks, guys. See you then.